Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Los Angeles Kings and whether or not they're set for a similar fate from what we saw from them over the past few years. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the Los Angeles Kings have been a pretty consistent organization over the past 15 years, making the playoffs regularly, and then were a side that won the Stanley Cup 2 times in that span. And while they haven't won the Stanley Cup since 2014, even in recent years they've been able to make the playoffs 3 years in a row to give themselves that opportunity to go on a run. Problem is they haven't advanced out of the first round in the past 3 seasons, and kind of brings up this discussion of whether or not this year will be any different and be the first time that the Kings go on a deep run in a while. So first off, we have to talk about, are they even going to go to the playoffs this year? And at first glance, it looks like they probably should. LA may not be winning the President's Trophy this season, but they do look to be a team that should make it from a wide view. They are at a 98-point pace, and looking at everything right now, especially with some teams that go out to a slow start, LA should probably make it as top 3 in their division, and even if things kind of get hairy there towards the back end of the season, they will probably be a wild card team. So I think that the odds of them making it to the playoffs are really good at the moment, so we kind of get to talk about whether or not things will be any different. So we're going to be taking a look at some numbers for this side, just kind of giving my random thoughts in this video, and seeing if this year will actually be any different for them. So when we're looking at the broad numbers like all strengths, they rank 17th in the league in goals for per 60. Meanwhile, when it comes to goals against per 60, they actually rank 9th in the league at time of recording this, which is really impressive considering the major transition they saw to their blue line, as well as the fact that I do think that, again, they kind of have some goalie questions in net there. Then when you look at the special teams play for the power play, they rank 29th in the league, which kind of is a big blow in that regard. As for the PK percentage, I believe they rank 15th in that time, so kind of bang on average. All across the board, though, you're kind of looking at this team and seeing a side that looks like what you've come to expect. Maybe some good defensive numbers, the offense is kind of average in some regard, and they don't scream anything crazy special in particular. I mean, looking at this team right now, you have a 37-year-old Anze Kopitar that is leading the team in points and is the only player that's averaging a point per game or higher, which again kind of gives you a little bit of that worry about saying, who in the world is going to be stepping up for this team if they make it to the postseason? I think that's a valid concern for this team because I think in a lot of ways this side is one that feels relatively familiar still. They have a lot of good things that you like for this side, where they are best in the league in expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5 and on the PK, one of the best teams too at even strength. They're just behind the Minnesota Wild at the time of recording this, and they have 3 lines that you feel pretty confident in that could cause some damage, and honestly their goalie should be good enough to be able to get them to go on a run. But again, I do have some major concerns for this team because, like we've seen before for this side, they have not been able to perform. I mean, looking at the power play last year, I don't think they scored a single goal on the power play in the series against the Edmonton Oilers, and they are struggling right now on the Manovich already, as I am getting a little bit tongue-tied here. But you do worry, especially if some of those bigger stars get locked up or even have a good series. I mean, you have some guys that are able to go out there and produce, like Adrian Kempe, that has 11 goals over his past 18 playoff games. But in general, I think there are still a lot of concerns about this team, about maybe getting into a higher scoring series, and they're just not able to keep up with some of that other team's firepower. And when you look at the regular season for this side, it's pretty apparent that when they lose, for the most part, it's going to be when they get held to 2 goals or less. Oh, I know that's very shocking. That's very, crazy of a thing to say right there. But aside from their 8-7 loss to the San Jose Sharks, Ottawa Senators. I don't know why I've got San Jose in my mind here. But when you look at the 8-7 loss to the Senators, that kind of stands out as an anomaly where it's a lot of, we lost 4-2 in this night or whatever. So that does kind of spark a little bit of a worry for me because you could see them maybe having 1 goal and it's the second period and they start to say, I don't think we're going to go out here and win this game. Or if the other team gets to 3 goals, can we match them? Probably not. They just had, I think, a 1-0 loss to the Buffalo Sabres recently, which again is added fuel to the fire of saying this team might not be able to get goals when they need to. So I will say early on, it seems like things aren't really too different for the LA Kings in terms of swaying my opinion. This year will be different for them come playoff time, but I will say one of the good things at the moment is it does appear that they probably won't have to play the Edmonton Oilers for a 4th straight season in the playoffs. Edmonton, of course, winning the past 3 times that they've met. That is good, but when it comes down to it, this is still a team that's got to figure out how to beat those better teams come playoff time, and that is something that is hard to do. And even if they are able to go out there and make it to the second round, that doesn't really do a whole lot for me because it doesn't convince me that they can go on to the conference final, and it doesn't convince me that they'll be able to do it consistently regardless. So seeing this LA side, I do think there's a lot of positives. Again, being consistently good. Maybe not great, but good. Having some of these younger players that are signed to these long-term deals. They just signed Quentin Byfield, who's off to a little bit of a slower start in terms of points this season, but still had a pretty good year last year. There are reasons to feel like you could kind of keep rolling the dice for this team. But I think even if they go out and win in the first round and go on to the second round this year, if things kind of get blown up where they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we advanced to the second round, that's kind of a cause for concern for me, because there is a clear gap between teams that go on to the second round and are excited, and then ones that are like, it's business as usual, we should be doing more. And I think that it's cause for celebration regardless, but still something where you can't get too hung up on it and say, we made the second round, this is a big year for us, because it's not really, in a way. And I think LA can ask a lot of questions entering the offseason should they lose in the first round again for the fourth straight year, because while they might not need to make major changes, they probably need to make some changes if they are looking for postseason success. And it's not like they're the Toronto Maple Leafs where they had some really dominant years. LA has been kind of around that 100-point mark for a good stretch of this time, but hasn't been, close to the 110, 115-point mark that would establish yourself as a top-tier side. And for the Kings, it's a little bit different from the Maple Leafs, where you're like, oh, if we keep this group together for the Leafs, feels like maybe we could have a chance, at least in hindsight. Back then, we thought maybe it would have been different. But for LA, you're not totally sure that that's going to happen. You don't know if there's going to be a run to the Stanley Cup, because they just haven't kind of given this ability to see it yet. So I don't know, maybe they could try to wait out some teams that are older, like the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers, and see maybe if some of those older players fall off a little bit, maybe they could be the top dogs in their division. But with McDavid and Draisaitl being part of Edmonton, and then Vegas seemingly still in a good spot right now, how much waiting would you really have to do? I don't really know, but maybe they say, oh, we will wait it out while also still trying to be a good team and make the playoffs, and then kind of roll the dice and see what our chances are. Not the end all be all. So anyway, I don't know, just kind of my video talking about the Kings, because I know we haven't talked about them just yet this year. A team that's been really good defensively, limiting a lot of chances all across the board, or all across the ice, I should say, and a side that has been doing really well, even though their goalies have kind of been playing poorly or not been playing up to what they should be at the moment. So maybe they could be better, and maybe they will go on a run come playoff time. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below about them in the comments. So please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Hockey over. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.